Here with the ultimate Seattle Seahawk 12th man, Mr. Love.
Yes.
We're going to ask him a couple questions today.
I'm ready.
We know back in the day you were known as the Sea Pimp, but apparently that's changing.
Well, it's not per se that back in the day I was known as Sea Pimp, because obviously in the Kingdom I went by different names, probably just my name, Shannon Love. But it was when we went to the new season in the new stadium of Quest Field, or Seahawks Stadium where it was, that the fans there gave me a name, because any professional Seahawk fan, the 12th man, you're not allowed to give your own name. It must be given to you. That's the policy. So there was a name that was given to me by the fans about 40 rows up off to my right in my section, and they started calling me Sea Pimp. And for a year, 2 years, I didn't acknowledge this name. I didn't think it was me. And then one day, Big Low was saying, Shannon, they're talking to you. Low, what do you mean they're talking to me? They're calling your name. I go, what are they saying? They're going, Sea Pimp. Well, I ain't no Sea Pimp. That's not me. He goes, yes, it is. And I go, no, I'm no Sea Pimp. And they go, turn around, Shannon. So I turn around and I go, what? And then about 5 people jumped up and they go, Sea Pimp. I go, what? Me? And about 15 people stood up and they go, Sea Pimp! And then I went, oh my God. And I go, yeah. And I go, yeah. And so there it was. And then every time I come into the stadium, these 30 people would jump up. Every time, Sea Pimp! Every time I go up and down the stairs. And still, it was like 2 years I didn't want to be Sea Pimp and I refused it. But everywhere I go, the Super Bowl in 05, Arizona, San Francisco, Atlanta, people across the way, they go, Sea Pimp! And I can't get away from it. I don't like to be called Sea Pimp. I prefer Mr. Love because it's about the kids, right? But anyway, I'm trying to play that down, and I'm trying to go by Mr. Love. But what are you going to do? Everywhere I go, that's what they call me.
What are some of your all-time favorite Seahawk players?
Good question. Obviously, we are involved in our family. We had, I think, 38 to 50 season tickets. I have 7 brothers and sisters, so we played a lot of school ball, down at the field playing football. And there was this quarterback, Jim Zorn, who was a left-handed quarterback that used to roll out and make all these impossible plays. Well, in all my family, Jim Zorn was our favorite guy because he wasn't supposed to win, and he would win, and we'd all pretend to be Jim Zorn on the playfield when we played. So he's been my all-time favorite without a doubt. And then there's another player that kind of came along that actually kind of changed my life, and what I think changed a lot of the 12th man. Now, most everybody who's a Seahawks fan hate this man, and they can't stand him, and I get in almost fights with anybody when I defend him. But that second favorite player of all time that changed my life was Brian Bosworth. Well, yeah, I know. That's right, Brian Bosworth. And let me tell you why. And I know all of you said, he had the bad shoulder, Bo Jackson knocked him over and all that kind of stuff. Don't get me going on that story, because that's another story. But the reason I like Brian Bosworth is because he gave the Seattle fans permission to be crazy and be themselves, and that's when I kind of morphed into a player. I cut my hair into a mullet. I had blonde hair. I dyed my hair. I had a jumpsuit, a white jumpsuit, at the beginning of my white suits. And that's why I liked him, because ever since before that, Seattle always wanted that superstar that we never got. And then we won this kid in the draft, and we got him, and it was our first time Seattle got a loudmouth super star, and then we got him, and Seattle didn't know what to do with him. And they hated him, basically, because he was too conceited and this and that. You asked for it, Seattle. You got it, but you didn't know what to do with it. Now, all of a sudden, today's a whole different genre, but yeah, Sherman Smith, the Tank, we did a lot of posters of him. We liked him. I liked David Brown a lot, Robinson. There was a lot of them. And then Reggie McKenzie, when Chuck Knox came, and he was O.J. Simpson's left pulling guard, and he came to us, and that was another big moment that he changed our game, Reggie McKenzie. He changed our fan base, and he commuted to our fan base, and that was a really, really strong moment in my life. Some players that made an impact. Now you got today's player. It's a whole different genre, but I would say with a new genre, it started with Jordan Babineau. And Jordan Babineau was the very first player before we kind of went crazy again, and the fans and he jumped up every game, win or lose. He'd come to our place in the front row and jump up into Big Low's arms. No other players were really doing that with the fan base. Babineau was the first one to say, hey, I'm going to touch base with the fans and do that. And then eventually a lot of players started doing that, and that was the beginning. And now we come today, and, obviously, God, who are you going to pick? I mean, you got Thurman, you got obviously Richard Sherman, you got Marshawn Lynch, you got number 3, Rick Meyer. Oh, yeah, he's not Rick Meyer. I was so upset when Russell Wilson chose number 3, our worst quarterback of all time, ever. And I go, well, don't choose number 3. But anyway, yeah, we love this kid. There's a lot of great players, and my thinking is this: if I got to say who's a better player or the best player, I think you got to wait 5 or 6 years. So it's hard to comment on our roster today who those players are going to be. Let's judge that 4 or 5 years, and we can look back and compare them with everything. But I think we have a lot of stars. So that's my take on the players.
Now, I know there's a lot of great 12th Men fans here in Seattle.
Absolutely.
You obviously are right up there with the all-time greatest.
Well, thank you.
To me, it would be pretty cool if you were ever in a position to raise the 12th man flag. Is that something you've ever visualized?
Oh, absolutely. I think there's probably hundreds and hundreds of 12th men fans from back in the day to even maybe current that would love to have that, ability to do so. I've talked to my agents, I've talked to staff on the Seahawks, and kind of proposed that question and suggested myself or somebody else that, hey, I would love to do that. But here's the deal: they understand what that would mean if they were to put one fan into a position. They would have all these fans up in their arms about why him, why not me, and so that's why you haven't seen any fans raise the 12th flag. It's always been past players or other former local Seattle sports stars or local Seattle, people that are in the news and so forth. So I think you just kind of got to accept that because they're trying to keep the peace with the fans. And I think I would upset a lot of people because they would say, well, why him, why not me, and this and that. I'm not going to get into, who's better fan and who's that. It's just not, for me, that's not what it's about. I actually support all fans, and I want all fans to be as great as they can be and do your thing. And because I have that belief, that's why you're seeing in the Seattle fan base why there's so many of us that dress uniquely different, and much more so than any other stadium I think that you'll have. And I think the Seahawks organization doesn't want to lose that fact, and that's why they keep the VIPs kind of doing that 12th man flag. I'm okay with that, and I think the rest of us 12th mans will understand. Maybe one day before my grave I'll get to go up there and do that, but there's still some other fans out there that are very deserving of that. So that's my answer. We'll see. It'll be great, but I don't hold my breath.
Is it true that Seattle Seahawks fans stand through the course of an entire game?
They actually do, and it's strange how that all came about because the rest of the NFL, they absolutely do not. In fact, they'll be kicked out if they try to stand and they try to mimic. Well, Seattle does it. Well, let me tell you how that all happened. When we went from the Kingdome blowing up, moving over to Husky Stadium, and then we came back over to what was then called the Seahawks Stadium, that takes everybody and jumbles them up 3 different times. So when we wound up in the new stadium, it was a completely new tendencies, if you will. So here we are, we got Big Low, and at that time Big Low was a very large man. He was probably up to about 500 pounds, and so he didn't quite fit in his seat. So we're down there in the front row in the end zone, right in the aisle. He's on one side of the aisle, I'm on the other side of the aisle, and we're together. So he's standing up there, and what happens is like the second or third game after him standing, the police came down, the alcohol enforcement came down, and they told him that you got to sit down. And he's going, what? I don't know what you're talking about. Well, they're ready to haul him off to jail, and they're going to arrest him. So Lauren, Big Low, he says, finally, and I'm looking at him, I'm laughing a little bit under my breath, and I'm waiting, I'm watching the whole thing, and I'm going, okay. So Lauren goes to me, Shannon, because I'm kind of like the godfather down there. I've been there forever, so I kind of like whatever I say goes, basically. So he says, yeah, I want your help. He goes, Lauren, you really want my help? He goes, yes, Shannon, please. So So all of a sudden, all the cops and the security and force and the alcohol enforcement people, there's like 6 of them. They're all saying, I go, what? And they're not, and they're like letting Lauren and I have this conversation about how I'm going to help them. So I stand up, straighten my tie, adjust my hat. I said, gentlemen, here's how this works. We stand at the games, and Lauren stands, and that's okay, and that's what we do here. Everything is fine. It was like a, I don't know, like a Star Wars mind meld or something like that. Go on about your business. They left, and they never came back. I turned to Lauren, and I said, all right, Lauren, here's what I'm going to do for you. You and me together. I will now stand with you, and you can have this side of the railing, and I'll have this side of the railing. Nobody comes between us, and we'll govern this, and we'll take care of it. And from that day forward, we stood. And what happened is my people in all my section and all the people, it was like a crescent moon, and they started standing. Then all of a sudden, they just started fanning out, and it was the north end, or excuse me, the south end, because it's in the south end. That whole section started standing, and then it just kind of went around, and then the whole stadium, and it was because of what Lauren and I did that day. And now, why does that happen, or how can that happen? Because Ted Lewicki, if I'm saying that correctly, believed in the fans' experience, and he wanted to empower the fan base, give them power, and that will empower all of us. And so each section is considered to be a neighborhood in an NFL stadium. So as a collective unit, whatever we do together. And that's what we did. We did it together. And now, as spread out, and they allow that to happen. If you try to stand at other stadiums, they don't do that because their neighborhoods, that's not what you do. And when they try to do it, they can't do it. It took years and years and years to get where we're at with having the ability to do what we do in our stands. And it can't be duplicated. If people try, they won't do it. But that is the power of the 12th man. It is the power of the history of the 12th man. And it is a great ownership and direction of Paul Allen that allows the Seahawks and the team and the security to embrace and integrate with the crowd as one, and they support us. I don't think other stadiums buy into that and understand. Give the fans some power. Empower them, and they will empower you. And that's what's happened. So the reason that people stand in the Kingdome is because of Big Low and Shannon Love back in 02 or 03 or whatever it was, at the very beginning. And people probably don't know that. And I'm kind of proud of that. But as a side note, I told Lauren, from this day forward, Lauren, the wave will never be again. We just, not only we did 2 things, we killed the wave. We just absolutely killed the wave, because you got to, in order to do the wave, somebody's got to stand up, and you got to do that, and you can't be doing it if everybody's standing up. Pete Carroll wants the wave in Seattle because he thinks it's powerful, and he remembers it back in the olden days. And I told Pete Carroll, I said, Pete Carroll, the wave will never happen again. Stop that with the wave. It's not going to happen again. What we have now is better. What we have now cannot be duplicated in any other stadium. Trust what we're doing here. It is powerful, and we are doing more than we ever done before. Allow this to happen. And he still doesn't understand it. He still wants that wave and the flicker of distraction, but I'm telling you, what we have now is better. Peace out. 12th man.
Tell me a story about the wave in Seattle.
The wave. That's so long ago. But how the wave was developed was over in UW at the Husky. It was a Yell King. I can't remember his name, but he started it. It was a tidal wave that went up and down, and then they had another one that went all the way around. At the time, the Husky Stadium was the only football. Okay, and this is before the Kingdome was built and the Seahawks were in town. When the Seahawks came in town, a lot of fans that were Seahawks fans were also Husky fans, and so they kind of knew about the wave and so forth. And we started the wave, and we did the wave in the Kingdome. But what happened was, in the beginning, there weren't a lot of Seahawk fans. There were no Seahawk fans. There were Jet fans. There were Giant fans. Or whatever 49. There was no unity, and so our rivalry, the Seahawks' first rivalry, was the UW Huskies, because it was competing against the Huskies across town versus the Seahawks. They were mad at us because we instantly got recognition for the wave in Seattle, and the Huskies go, whoa, 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 that's ours. So for years that kind of went around as like, who owns the wave? Well, they started Huskies on the wave. Seahawks made the wave world famous. Okay, so that's how that kind of came about with the wave. Is we took it and we made it happen. In fact, a lot of people, when they think about the wave, they think about Bill the Beer Man. That he has actually worked in the north section of the Kingdome. So let me go back. Our first rivalry as a franchise was the Huskies against the Seahawks. And then it became, are you ready? Inside the Kingdome, it was the North against the South. What I mean by chants like go, Seahawks, defense, things of that nature. And Bill the Beer Man, he was there a little bit, and he was kind of reading those, and I'm in the front row. I'm already leading cheers, right? And I'll be damned if the North is going to beat, volume-wise, the South End. So I ruled the South End in the front row down there. And so we always kicked their butt. They never were louder than us. Now, when Bill left, I was there, and I was there on HBO, you know, all those sport channels and newspapers. I'm the guy standing up, and I led our wave, and I did the wave, and I made that wave. And in fact, God, I can't remember the year, but it was Atlanta Falcons Monday night football game, and this is kind of during the Denver noise thing, and right before that, we did this wave, and we had it going around, and the wave went around, and I used to count them every time as a kid. You know, every time they go around. Well, that was 6 times. Well, that is 8 times. You know, because that was the guy. I was the one who started. I was the one who kept it going all the time. 28 times around. And that Monday night game was the world record in the Kingdome for the wave going around, and never ever again has that wave ever hit that many, you know, circular numbers. So that was a really cool thing, and I'm really most proud of that. But most people don't know that the reason that wave was so strong and all those things was because of me. I was that guy. And I don't know if the people back that went to the games, they all knew me. They knew who I was. But God, fast forward today, most of them don't even know how it went about or that I was that guy. And that bothers me some that they don't know. And I have to blow my own horn. But if you go back to the NFL films and the HBO films, and there you see me. If you pull up all the old newspapers, I was that guy, front and center, and leading the cheers and doing those things. And back then, nobody stood up. I was the only guy that stood up. No one stood up. And I would stand up and I'd lead those cheers. As a matter of fact, how did you get that way of going? I call them lieutenants or spark plugs. If you will, I'd stand up and I'd look at that crowd, and I go, I need somebody. I need somebody. Stand with me. Stand with me. And the guy will go, well, I'll do it. I go, all right, you stand right there. And I go, I need somebody over there. And I need somebody over there. Now stand up. Now, today you can't do that because everybody's standing up. So there I was. Are you ready? I have 4 or 5 people. They're all standing up. And their job was to ignite that wave. Get it going, because sometimes it takes 4 or 5 startings. 3, 2, go. And you go and you put your hands up. So having those spark plugs set about, they made sure that, boom, they had hit their section, and that's how I did it, and that's how we did it. And we rolled it. And so those were good times. But like I said earlier, today the wave will never be, because now we all stand, so it can't happen.
Here were some old school posters that Mr. Love used to bring with him to the Kingdome, and he's going to let us know a little bit of the background here.
Yeah, these are old school, definitely. These were actual posters from the Kingdome that actually my parents, my mother particularly, Pamela Love, she was an artist, and we decided to do these posters. They would measure 9 feet in length. You see, it's pretty tall in the Kingdome, up to 36 feet, some of them. We have many of them. We did them for every single game. And here's the cool thing. They were always football players. They always had a powerful impact statement, and that was what my father, Judge Love, was all about, was having an impact statement with few words. Kind of a lesson I learned later on in life. But these were great. They're on HBO Films. They're on all the different networks, and you'll see them. And particularly myself, would be on front page of the newspapers. I used to do all crazy sorts of cheers from down there, and we had made our own T-shirts, but we were really into this whole scene of the posters, and so much that the players really responded, and not only so much as that they'd come up and they'd always autograph them almost every game, but our posters in our section of 36 seats or so seats that we'd have, they'd always go up and down over the years. The Seahawks players tunnel was right to our right, and they'd always come out when they come out at the beginning of the game for the to warm up. They'd always kind of look to the left, look over the left shoulder, and say, "What did I make it? I'm gonna go ahead!" And they'd hit each other's arms, because, "Dude, you made it!" And my mother was thrilled about that. It always would come over, the players, and they always talk to my mother every single game and say, thank you very much, for getting me on there. I love them. Oh, great poster. And one time we had a national game. It was with CBS, and everybody in the Kingdome, basically network-wise has certain places they place these logos. Back in the Kingdom days, everybody had posters, and we certainly did, and we always had a rite of passage with our spot. No one ever messed with it. But this one game, and it was CBS, and it was national TV, and they flipped it as far as where the logos were on opposite north and south sides to where it was right in front of where we put our poster. Well, my mother, who's 96 years old today, wasn't going to be having any of that, and she put the poster right up where she normally puts it. And then a few minutes later, the Seattle police come over and some other officials come over, and they're starting to tear my mother's poster down. And all of a sudden, players are warming up. They're out there on the field. Oh, Jim Zorn, well, he sees this. He sees these security people taking down this poster. And they come running over to the CBS people and say, no, 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 no. He's waving his arms like no catch, you know. He goes, no, 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 that's Mrs. Love. You do not touch that poster. You move that. And they go, what? They're looking at Jim Zorn. He goes, yes. And he was like very authoritative. And they go, and they didn't. So that game, they moved the logo, and my poster stayed there. And that was a beautiful thing. And that right then and there, we knew that the Seahawks players loved us. We made a difference. We made an impact. And it was these statements of the posters and the positive growth that my father, Judge Love, would imply. And it was always about support your team no matter what. Through injury, you applaud the other team. You're an NFL fan first, and then you're a Seahawk player second. It's about sportsmanship. And it's those caliber things that I was taught that I projected in the later years that I go into my game that would bring my personality. And it is the personality of the 12th man that has been taught and has been move forward. And the one thing that the 12th man does that other fan bases don't understand is we teach. We teach our fellow fans to the left, to the right of us how to cheer, how to do this. We don't do that. We do this good job, and we pass the lessons on so they hear the stories. Do the stories get muted over the years? I'm sure they do, but the story is the same. It's a positive growth and be the best fan you can. And I believe my family and myself, Shannon Love, Mr. Love, made an impact on that, and I'm just glad to share some of my history and my family's history of why I'm here and why I've been going to every single game, and I'm in a front row man, and I fight, and I fight for us, Seahawks, Hawkeye.